Special report just in, live from the Georgia Tech newsroom, featuring a recently released study on sex, territory, and mongoose.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Durham. Well, almost every news story reported these days is about fighting and war between powerful countries and people. Have you ever stopped and asked what evolutionary benefit comes to species that have vicious intergroup conflict? Basically, why do we fight each other so much and does it impact us? In a paper released on October 8th of last year, Faye Thompson and peers tried to answer this question after 16 years of studying monkeys. Before looking any closer, we asked some students around Georgia Tech's campus what their thoughts were. Listen for yourselves.
While violent intergroup conflict may come at a cost to individuals, it could be to the benefit of a group because it could encourage them to cooperate, which would favor the selection for the group.
Those guesses are getting to the point. This is our mongoose expert, Jonas Koski. Jonas, what themes should we be looking out for as we discuss this study and the results?
Well, banded monkeys are social species and they behave in groups, a lot like people do. So things that are important for people like parental investment, sex, reproduction strategies, hormones, and lineage play a big role in how these monkeys behave.
Alrighty, well let's look at this study itself and see how these topics are involved. The purpose of Thompson's study was to show how different environmental factors cause group violence and see the consequences of this violence to pups, adults, and pregnant females. Let's see how this study was performed.
So 43 groups of banded mongooses were studied from 1999 to January 2016 in Uganda. The groups were visited every few days to record group composition and behavioral data, such as stress levels, energy usage, and group movements. Some individuals in each group wore radio collars for tracking, and all mongoose were marked uniquely.
Thanks for that, Ritika. Now let's take a look at what really matters, the results. Jessica and her assistant Jonas will show us what Thompson discovered and why it matters.
Thanks, Rebecca. Let's look at our first graph. First off, Thompson showed that mongoose are more likely to be involved in intergroup conflicts as the size of the group increases. Group size is an important factor that affects the decision of the mongoose group to engage in conflict or flee. This can be explained by the fight or flight response produced by the sympathetic nervous system. Secretion of epinephrine and norepinephrine by the adrenal medulla drive the mongoose group to engage in a fight or flee the area.
And this makes sense. As you can see in this phylogenetic tree, monkeys are part of the order Carnivora, which contains social carnivores such as lions, bears, and dogs. Carnivorous species are characterized as placental mammals with sharp canine teeth, speed, blade-like claws, which were evolved specially as a weapon. So when resources such as food or new mates become scarce, mongoose by nature will venture into new territory that may be occupied by another mongoose group, resulting in conflict.
Take a look at this graph. Here we see the intergroup conflict occurred the most during the estrus phase of the female reproductive cycle.
This was an interesting observation. Female monkeys go through an estrous cycle, which is like a menstrual cycle, regulated by the hypothalamus pituitary gonadal axis. It's different though, because they reabsorb their menstrual lining instead of shedding it, and all of the females in the group ovulate at the same time.
This estrus phase is also marked by high progesterone levels, which cause negative feedback on the follicular stimulating and luteinizing hormones, so that the corpus luteum can form. The progesterone actually helps maintain the endometrial lining for implantation of the zygote.
Observing the monkeys showed that one possible reason for the increase in conflict when females go into heat could be that males from other groups sense these hormonal changes and wage a war on another group just to increase their genetic diversity. Another possibility could be that the ovulating females actually lead their groups to seek out foreign males to help increase genetic diversity also.
Either way, they are still a cooperatively breeding species that raises their young together. You would think that means the monkeys have a promiscuous mating system, since it doesn't really matter whose baby belongs to who, which would also lead to less violence. But males within a group are actually very protective of their females and will mate guard them for up to 3 days, especially from other groups. It's a lot of parental investment and it gets tricky for the dominant males with all the females going to eat at once.
Well, that's about all the time we have today. Thank you, Jessica and Jonas. For a final recap, the results showed that intergroup conflict in banded monkeys is pretty much caused by competition for resources and mates. That sure sounds familiar. Hopefully more studies will be done in the future to see how important intergroup cooperation is. Thanks for joining us.